Hello and welcome once again to the Dwarven Tavern. I am your host, Lyric, and today we are doing a beginner's video. This one is going to be about telling a person's personality through gaming. This isn't really a beginner's video, it's just listed under that. This is actually for everybody, so let's get into it, shall we? When you are gaming, it's very easy to get out of role-playing. It's very easy to not know what you're doing. And it's very easy to act as oneself rather than one's character. So, to give you an example of what I'm saying is, one of my favorite times, or one of my dad's favorite times of us gaming was when I was playing with one of my first boyfriends. And we were playing really evil characters, and I heard that there were, I think I had like an Arrhenius as my character, and like I was like evil and all that stuff, and I heard word on the demon wave, I heard word that there were orphans being sold to this one particular place. Now normally, my kind was supposed to eat little children, but in my youthful ignorance, I was like, I must save the children! And luckily, that campaign was only played once because it was a major flop, and my own personality seeped through the cracks, to say. So, gaming is a great way to learn about oneself. This is a great way to get into it and really understand your limits of your personality, the limits of your sanity, where that border would be crossed. And it's also a great way to learn about other people as well. Another story that was mentioned most recently in one of our other videos, or podcasts rather, was talking about how my dad gamed with someone who was sucked into the gaming world. I think it was in our latest podcast. And he was attacked and he killed people, and that character was himself in the game, and that sent him through a moral tragedy, if you will. So to game can show you, things about yourselves that you wouldn't normally think to do, and sometimes it sends you careening over that moral ambiguity cliff that most people have a very hard time leaping past. So what I'm trying to say is, this gaming as a whole can show you paths to your psyche that you didn't otherwise know were there. It can make you more self-aware about who you're gaming with, yourself, who is the DM and how they play. If they're unreasonably cruel or if they're especially forgiving, it can tell you if they are smart or if they are wise. They can tell you if they have worldly experience or not. And that isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just this type of game that we play, such as Dungeons and Dragons, shows you things about your personality that you may not have otherwise discovered via other games. I think video games does offer a lot of moral conflict. Like in one particular video game, God of War, there's a giant moral conflict, an ethics problem dealing with Poseidon's daughter. I'm not going to go into it, but the character, the person playing, has to decide if, they don't really have a choice in this situation. They have to do it, and it may put a bad taste in the character's mouth, or the player's mouth. So, and that choice, more often than not, sometimes is taken away from you when you play video games, such as that particular instance. But with this type of gaming, with Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and World of Darkness and all those other role-playing tabletop games, they give you that moral grounds that you can decide if this is good or bad. We talked about morality a lot in our latest podcast, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I already have, so what the heck. I have a lot of moral conflicts in my stories. There was one instance where my famous and favorite half-orc, Akathan, was faced off against an evil, quote-unquote, monastery, and they wanted to kill him, but this monastery was revered by the people and looked up to, even though their gods were evil, they didn't know it, and he had to slaughter them all with his bare fists in order to restore the balance of good and evil. So, because that's his way of life, is he has to restore the balance. And I just rolled and rolled and rolled. He had very high fists of fury. He has like 4, and they're like +9, +9, +10, and +2, or whatever, and I don't really remember them, but they were really high, and I basically just went through them all. I got maybe 2 attacks on me, and I just killed them all, and faced off with the head of the clergy was a piece of cake for Agathan, and he just went through them, and I had a giant moral problem afterwards. I thought, why was that so easy to do? Why was it just a game in that moment? Was it just numbers and not people? And Agathan had no problem with it. It was me who had a problem with it, because these were human beings. They just had the wrong, quote-unquote, wrong beliefs in that area, and they were causing a lot of problems when they should have maybe been talked to and talked down. Religion is a very touchy subject, but I feel like if Agathan had really wanted to, he could have probably talked to them about it. But they attacked first, and he had no choice in that situation, so I tell myself. So, you can also tell a person's personality by what you are up against. The dungeon master, are they cruel? Are they heartless? Are they forgiving? Are they kind? These are things that you can learn by how the DM treats you in your game. This is a great way to find out. Gaming is a great way to find out if the person you're dating is right for you. So, if they are, you know, a moral and just person, or are they a cruel and weird person that have some strange fetishes that you don't want to get into. So, and this can also be an outlet to help yourself. I've mentioned him many times, but my personality was very closed and reserved and whatever until I broke out of my shell due to one of my favorite characters named Baduk, another half-orc, and he was my outlet to be more projecting of my emotions, to help me build up my confidence and my self-esteem, and so on and so forth. This kind of goes into the video that I will be doing next called Therapy in Gaming. Baduk was definitely the character that he's the one I refer to the most because he's the one that helped me the most in my childhood. He definitely showed me who I was to myself. And I created him with the sole purpose of changing me for the better. I did it in a very rough and cruel and heartless way, but I still did it, and that turned me into someone who could be confident in situations I would otherwise cower in front of. For example, being on camera. I used to be terrified of being on camera. I was not a person made for film. You may argue that I'm still not, and that's okay. I stutter and ramble a lot. But Baduk was definitely the person that showed me there was more to life than what I was originally believing it to be. So, you can tell a person's personality through gaming by seeing how they play the game, by seeing how they play their characters. And this is kind of obvious to a lot of people, but a lot of people don't really see it. How a person role plays, if they have trouble breaking out of their own personality, that can show them as being either uneducated in the forms of role playing, naive in the forms of role playing, or just self-absorbed and selfish. I had one player who always wanted to play rogue characters, and when she wasn't playing a rogue, she was playing a character that should have been a rogue. She was always trying to be the sneakiest, be the fastest, be the one that was in cover, even when she was playing characters that would otherwise charge into battle, like a barbarian. So, this just told me that she wanted to be, cunning and swift and smart and just outthink everybody, and this didn't necessarily reflect on her own personality, but what she wanted to be. And that wasn't the type of person that I wanted to be around. Not the fact that she wanted to be cunning or smart, but that she wanted to be sneaky, and that stealing wasn't a big deal to her. And I knew this because I had seen her steal before in real life. So, needless to say, we are no longer friends. But this type of gaming can show you outlooks into a person's personality that no other game can really describe or get into. I had a DM once who was very, very rough to play with because I had a different religion than they did. And that was very hard to get over because their NPCs would keep trying to convert me. And I have nothing against religion, but I have mine, and you have yours, and let's just keep it that way. So, when the person tried to convert me, it became a giant, standstill between me and the DM rather than the player and the DM, or the character and the DM. So, next time you play, be a little more, self-aware of what's going on. Aware, not self-aware, but be conscious about the decisions that you make. Be conscious about the other players and what decisions they make, about what the DM does and what they've decided. How a person roleplays is a giant example of how a person is. If they're good at it, if they're bad at it, if what they're roleplaying, if they're bad at roleplaying and what character they're playing, their character choices, for example. These are all things to outline how you can see a person and their own personality line up. Like, the characters I usually play are good, and good to a fault. Sometimes there are situations where there is no good or bad, and I often try to find the good in those situations regardless. And, a lot of times that gets me in trouble, because I'm trying to find the good for a select few rather than thinking of the good of many. I want it to be good for all, and not for some. So, a lot of times that can be problematic if you're in a situation where the outcome is going to be bad for someone regardless of what you do. So, self-preservation is a giant one. If the player prefers to use self-preservation rather than, preserving others, that's always a red flag for me. Not that there's anything against self-preservation, it's just that when that comes before anything else, that's a problem that I've got. So, take something from this of what you will. It really doesn't bother me one way or another. I'm just hoping to shed some light on the fact that you can definitely tell a person's personality through gaming. Especially if they're displaying cowardice in the eye of being, heroic. There was a paladin that I dealt with that wasn't very paladinic. So, you can definitely see a person and who they are by the choices they make in-game. And I just want to bring that to light. So, that is it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please do so below. I would love to hear them. If you want to outline this a little bit more, I'm not saying that this is the bottom line, the be-all, say-all of telling a person's personality through gaming. I'm just saying this is what I've experienced. These are the people that I've gamed with. This is how I've learned to game. You can definitely see a person and who they are by what characters they play and how they play them. So, leaving with one last example. My brother is a very strong, brutish, violent person, but he also has a heart of gold, and you can always see that in his characters. Even if he plays the frailest of children, you will see that heart of gold leak through, and you can do that for pretty much every person that you play with. So, unless they're really good at role-playing, and that is a skill all unto its own. That's a person that you definitely want to be around. So, that is it. I would love to hear it if you have anything that you would like to say on this topic. If you want any other beginners videos or solo talks or anything like that, please comment below on what exactly you would like to hear. And I am Lyric Owens with the Dwarven Tavern, wishing for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time. Let the games begin, let the